Welcome back to Break at the Apex, guys. It's myself, Graham, and BT, your favorite hosts of the best Formula One podcast in the world, which is a biased opinion. But if you watch it, I'm sure you'll find that I'm not lying. Just to put this out there, we did not do a Silverstone race review. I was ill, and BT was too shy to do a video on his own. Anyways,
Yep.
the point is, we're going to do this little video today just to recap a couple of things and big talking points that have happened over the last couple of days. Talking points that are very dear to my heart and talking points that are also not very dear to my heart. But we are going to cover these. So probably not too long of a podcast today, but we will at least give you our thoughts and opinions on these matters. Before we get going, BT, I did miss you this last week. How are you doing? It's been a while. Your pretty face has not been within my vicinity for some time.
Yeah, I mean, I've been good. Obviously, you've been ill. I couldn't actually watch the race that particular day because I had load shedding. So when we decided we're not going to do the episode, I prolonged it a bit, and I only watched the race this past weekend. So yeah, it was nice.
Jeez, I don't know how you do that.
Obviously, I know. Obviously, I knew what was going on with all the changes and stuff, but I watched the race until on Saturday last year. So yeah, quite an interesting one.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair. Well, I'm doing a bit better. Thanks for asking. Anyways, yeah, no, I'm doing better. And I think we can get straight into things. Before we carry on, if you guys could just please knock that subscribe button, really appreciate it. And while you're there, give us a like. And if you're watching on Spotify, just a 5-star review, please. I know it sounds greedy, but as we've mentioned before, our mothers have told us that we're very handsome men. So, you know, at least you'd be giving us a 5-star for something. You know what I mean? It won't just be in vain. It won't be for nothing. It will be for something. Anyways,
and Grab is wearing such a nice top today, so he's wearing a nice top. So
am I? It's actually very irritating. You see, nice. It keeps making this. I don't know what this is. I don't know what.
It's a crew neck.
I thought I had it the wrong way. No, but this thing here, it's irritating. Anyways,
it's supposed to be like.
Mate, you can tell I'm not big into fashion, because like. I used to be. Anyways, okay, listen. So let's get. Welcome to Graham and BT's fashion show. Here today, we're going to chat about F1 and fashion of podcast hosts and drivers. Anyways, no, we're going to skip the drivers' fashion. That's not one of the talking points because I mean, there's only like one person in the paddock that is fashionable, and that's Roscoe. So
the dog.
The dog.
Oh wow.
Anyways, every single week, guys, we come onto the podcast, and our first part of the actual race review is we really have nothing to say about Red Bull. But today, guys, today we're going to bring you an entire podcast just on Red Bull. Well, not the entire podcast, but at least an entire full segment just on Red Bull, because Red Bull have been in the limelight again for some really controversial things again. And you know what, BT? It's about time we put these things to rest. Now, there are a lot of people that's probably going to agree with us, a lot of people that's going to disagree with us. I wouldn't say that our takes, at least in terms from my takes, I wouldn't say that I have hot takes as such, but I certainly think that I might have some unpopular takes. Unpopular being against the norm of what even I would go for. So let's get into it. Let's just start off by saying Red Bull are a business like every other team and every other business, and they obviously need to win. That's obviously what they strive to. They strive to win. So I just wanted to put that out there because there are going to be a couple of things that I might say that, you know, people are going to be like, geez, you worse than Marco Helmut, you know, Helmut Marco, whatever his name is. I always do that. I always mix his name around. Anyways, let's start off with Sergio Perez, right? So let's just get that out the way, because I think that's the easier topic to sort of discuss here. Obviously, in the last couple of weeks, there's been a major upset with Sergio. Everybody talking about his five bad qualifying sessions in a row, and the fact that Red Bull should axe him, and so on and so on. Right, so let's get into Sergio Perez, because I think I've got some valid points. I think also maybe you've got some valid points, and I think who knows, maybe we have a bit of a disagreement. I don't know. Just so some of you know, I had a conversation with BT about a week ago about Perez, where I absolutely blew up, and I was just like, I was not having any of this. But I've had some time to calm down. I've had a chill pill, and I've sat down, and I've genuinely thought about this. And if some of you follow my TikTok, you would have seen that I've made a video on Sergio Perez before. I also made another one today. And I'm going to reiterate the same things that I said there, because I feel like that is probably the right way to think about it. So before I get into my view, I think it's fair to let BT go first. I am the Red Bull fan, Red Bull / McLaren, but I am the Red Bull fan. So I'm going to give him a first go at this, and then I will weigh in on my sort of take on Sergio Perez. So BT, if you want to kick it off with what you think about Sergio Perez, his performances, what does this mean for Red Bull? What should happen with him? If you've got any questions for me as a Red Bull fan about Sergio, please take the floor. The floor is yours.
To be honest with you, I'm more interested in what you're gonna say. I think what's gonna happen is that obviously I have my own comments and my own opinion about Perez, but particularly I would like to hear what's on your mind and what you think of Perez and his recent form and his future with the team as well. So if you can take it away, then I'll go after you. Rather, let's do it that way.
The greatest podcast in the world, guys. We're going to argue about who's going to go first. This is what the greatest podcast in the world is about. I love it. The banter is real. Anyways, let's get into it. Okay, sure. I'll go. 100%. Okay. First of all, I want to say that I was absolutely annoyed with Perez, and I get annoyed with him every single time I watch him in the best car stuff up every qualifying session possible. That has happened in the last 5 in a row, guys. 5 in a row. Like, I can't begin to imagine. Like, think about this, right? Imagine you are at work, okay, and your boss asks you to do a simple task. I say simple, but to him, it's his life, right? So it should be simple, right? A simple task he asks you to do 5 times in a week, and you fail it every single time. Would you still have your job? That's the question I've got to ask you. Would you still have your job, or would you at least be on a couple warnings or something like that? That is the question I ask, right? However, I'm going to make this a little bit more political, a little bit more of a genius move, rather than let's just get rid of Checo, right? Red Bull understand what it's like to have 2 drivers fighting each other. They know the kind of management that is required to deal with that. They understand the implications that can come to the brand. Drivers fighting, drivers swearing at each other, throwing toys out the cot, having to manage the 2 drivers, make sure everybody's happy. Red Bull have had that with Webber and Vettel before. And if I'm quite honest with you, they really don't need that again. Right now, they're winning. They've got the car to continue winning. Sergio Perez is still second on the championship standings. He's doing his job, regardless of what you think. He's doing his job. He is second. What more do you need him to be? You want him to be second, and he is second. So what more can he do, right? Now, I get it. He hasn't been qualifying well, but he still gets into the points. Maybe he doesn't get second, maybe he doesn't get third, but he still gets into the points, and he maintains that. And it's only a matter of time until he sort of comes right, surely. He's in the best car. Surely at some point, he'll have to come right and sort of get back into those second and third places, you know? All the team is asking from him is to remain second in the championship, make sure that Red Bull win the championship. And currently, he's still doing that. So why should they get rid of him? Why should they risk the... And don't get me wrong now. Don't put words into my mouth and tell me, do I think Daniel's going to take on Max or anybody that can replace Checo? I'm not saying that. But we don't know that. What if they replace Checo with Lawson and Lawson all of a sudden starts showing Max up? We don't know. If they replace him with Daniel, whether they replace him with Lawson, they could replace him with Yuki, and Yuki could start showing Max up. We don't know that. Obviously, we don't think that would happen, but we don't know that, right? So my thing is like, why risk putting a driver in there that could possibly take the fight to Max and in turn cause two unhappy drivers because they're now actually fighting when they're still winning and their drivers are nowhere near each other and they're both happy because, I mean, the one is just in another league and the other one knows that he's not in that one's league. So he's just doing the best that he can. I possibly sound like I'm rambling, guys. I really do apologize. But I think I get to the point that Sergio Perez should just stay where he is for now. And until that gap starts closing, I don't think the team should do anything. When the gap starts closing, when the other teams start getting closer, fine. Red Bull are going to have to start making bigger decisions then. Because at that point, you're going to need Sergio to not be getting, 6th and 7th places. You're going to need him to be getting those 1st and 2nds and so on. So until such a time, just leave him where he is. Let him do his job the way he's doing it. Everybody's happy. So why change this? Why change it? So that's my take on Sergio Perez.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I think if it was the other way around, where Sergio Perez was finishing outside the points in 5 races in a row, I think some action would have to take place. But he's only doing that in qualifying. So his performance is horrible in qualifying. However, he does save his weekend on races. As you said as well, that he does land up within the points. He's still 2nd in the championship. Red Bull is still leading the constructors championship. So I don't think it's panic time here, And maybe because we're putting him in a pedestal, a high pedestal, because of the car that he's driving.
Yeah.
And we're not supposed to be doing that because maybe he's not in the caliber of Max. And you're right.
Yeah.
How Max drives the car and how Perez drives the car is supposed to be different. Max is just a talented driver who's in a very good car, and he's just making everyone look slow.
Yeah.
And Perez is in the same car, but he's just, I don't know if he's struggling, if the car setup is not quite right for him personally, for his driving style, but he's not showing the same, not showing the same pace as Verstappen, but not showing the same dominance. You can put it that way. And what's happening in Red Bull is that they have 2 things going on, and they should look at it in that way, in a positive way, where they're dominating at the front and they're able to dominate from the back. There's not many teams can do that. That sounds, it doesn't sound right. That doesn't sound right, but you know what I mean. You know what I mean. So they have a car. They have a car that they know if some things happens in qualifying, it's going to be able to make up places. And they have a car that's always going to be on pole, and it's going to win the race. So the way I'm looking at it, I'm not looking at like Perez only. I'm looking at how Red Bull should look at it as well. Perez is doing his job. You are right by saying that. He's not DNFing. He's just not doing well in qualifying. That's all.
Yeah.
So I also think that he should stay, to be honest with you, for now.
For now.
I don't think any team is gonna get close to Red Bull this season.
Mate, I really don't think at all. I just
maybe
don't
a
see it
miracle
happening.
might happen. Yeah, maybe a miracle might happen when we go on that. Is it a winter break? Summer break, winter break? I don't know. Maybe a miracle happens and McLaren is closer, or Ferrari, or Mercedes, or Aston Martin, any of those teams. I don't see that happening this year, to be honest.
I personally, I don't see it happening. But when that gap does close, then for sure they will have to make a plan. And Guys, just,
Yes.
some of you may be going crazy with us at the moment. Like, we're not saying that Sergio Perez, like, to put it bluntly, he currently is not really up to
On form.
he's not on perform. He's not up to performance. He's not on form.
Yeah.
And at any given point, I would say sack him. But if you look at the current team dynamic, and if you look at the current situation, and the fact that he is still technically second in the championship standings, all we're saying is for now, leave him there. But for sure, when that gap closes, they will have to make a plan with him. They will have to make some changes to the lineup, and when that time comes, then do it. But for now, don't upset what's working for them right now. Right now, it's working. Leave it alone. We've seen teams fall apart after a small change like this. In the middle of the season.
Yeah.
Right now, just leave it for now. I'm glad that you brought up about the thing about driving styles with regards to the car, because there's a few things that I would like to there's a few things I'd like to chat about regarding driving styles, and when we get to Daniel Ricciardo, we can cover it, because I feel like there's a massive missing gap here in the understanding of where Daniel Ricciardo is. Have people lost complete faith in him? Do people still rate him? Do people think he's good enough for Red Bull or not? We're going to get into that, because I see a lot of the stuff on social media and a lot of different comments coming to and fro. You and I have had a bit of a nice debate regarding Daniel Ricciardo, and I'd like to get some of that out. I think there were some perfect views out there to put out there, just to sort of give people an understanding of who Daniel Ricciardo is and why we rate him so highly, even though he hasn't really achieved much, if that makes sense. Like, at one stage, he was the hottest property of Red Bull. The hottest property in Formula One. When he made his move to Renault, for example, he was literally the hottest property of F1 at that moment in time. Yet, if you consider his career, he hasn't really. He's got 8 wins to his name. I mean, wow, Webber's got more. You know what I mean? Like, he hasn't really achieved much for somebody who's hot. But we still remember who he was as a driver and what he can bring to the table, given that he's got the car underneath him. But we'll get into Ricciardo. I first want to cover Nyck de Vries, and the whole relationship there and how everything unfolded. It seems to have turned sour. I just saw a pop-up again on my screen from GP fans, of Nyck de Vries insinuating that Red Bull stole the title from Lewis Hamilton in 2021. Now, I don't know why that's going to come up now, but if you're that sour to bring it up now, again, GP fans is not always the gospel when it comes to Formula One. They are clickbait kings. But when you read the article, a lot of the times they do quote the drivers, and the quotes are generally quite accurate. I did read it just now, and it seemed like he did say something in those lines. But in any case, it's fine. Look, at the end of the day, if he wants to be sour, that's okay. I just think maybe it's not good to burn bridges in this sport.
He's pulling at Alonso 2007 there, bro.
Jeez, mate.
Wow.
Jeez.
Yo.
All right. So the first question I'm going to ask you, BT, simple and easy. Do you think Red Bull did the right thing? Do you think it was too harsh, or do you think they did the right thing? Now, I've got a bit of, I won't say inside information. I've heard from other sources, and I've read from sources that are available to everybody, but I've heard from sources that do have inside information of certain things that Nyck de Vries was failing at, more than just the on-track performances. So I obviously am swayed a little bit more by information that a lot of other people don't actually have. But I would like to know from you, and the knowledge that you do have, what do you think of the situation? Do you think that he should have gotten more time, or do you think Red Bull were harsh, or do you think it was the right move? I'll give that to you and let you go with this one.
It's the right move, to be honest with you. We know Red Bull in the history, dude. They don't hesitate like pulling out drivers. So why should they stop with him?
Yeah.
Albon was in a Red Bull. He got demoted. Gasly was in a Red Bull. The seat got a bit too hot, got demoted. Now it's him.
Kvyat. Yeah.
Kvyat as well. Thank you for that. Kvyat as well got the
Yeah.
boot. So Red Bull is just doing what they know for.
Mate,
They if you don't, yeah, many
Kvyat got the
chances. And
ultimate, and he got the ultimate boot, man.
that's
Like
the thing. That's
he
the
lost his
thing.
drive and his girlfriend to the same guy in 1 week. Anyways.
Anyway, yeah, I mean, he got his chance. It's
Yeah.
Formula One, dude. He got his chance. He couldn't deliver.
Yeah.
Why waste time? And what the sad thing is that there was so much hype around this guy,
Yeah.
this kid, and I think the pressure was just the pressure was just too much for him. It got to
Yeah.
him, and as you said as well, that you read a couple of stories where he was failing certain tests and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So if that is
Yeah.
if that is happening in the background, is he really ready for Formula One?
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
doesn't
So
mean
like,
when you win or
yeah.
sorry about that, but it doesn't mean when you win the amateur, the F2s, the F3s. That doesn't really mean that you're ready for F1. It's a different animal.
Yeah.
To be honest, it's a different animal. It's a different team dynamic. It's pressure. It's delivering every weekend because
Yeah.
every point counts to the team and it counts towards how much money the team is going to get at the end of the season. So it's a serious business. And if you can't deliver, I can say 70% of the time, because 30% of the time you will have one of those weekends that Perez has had for five races. You know, just saying.
But he still scored points though
But
in those races. So he still,
there we go.
you know what I
There we
mean?
go.
He still did his
I
job.
was about to say, yeah. So if you can at least for that type of car, at least finish 10th, I'll be pushing 8th, but 10th, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th. I'm just saying,
Yeah.
at
Yeah.
least can finish there and plus finish ahead of your own teammate as a
Yeah.
rising star in Formula One in the sport.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, you're not going to make it. And if you're driving for
100%.
a team like Red Bull, they're not going to give you a lot of opportunities or chances, to be honest with you.
100%.
But yeah,
100%.
right is a right move from me, to be honest with you. Yeah.
Cool. Okay, so let me get those things out the way. So basically, he had physical exams, and your sim test, your sim they also do sim related tests and so on.
Yes.
And it turns out that he'd also not been performing on these fronts as well. So in that situation, you kind of look at it and you think, okay, if he's not making it in all of these categories, maybe he's not cut out for this team. And maybe it's not the car, maybe it's not maybe it's not him. Maybe it's the car, maybe it's the team. We don't know that, but I see a lot of people are saying, but there isn't much difference between him and Yuki. It's only 2 points. But there's such a big, when points only go up to 10th position, there's so much more to tell in those bottom 10 drivers than just points. When Yuki is sitting 11th, 12th for almost every race, and then every now and again getting into those points whenever he can, he's the type of driver that's going to make a terrible car look good, because he's taken a pretty bad car and he's putting it into a position waiting to pick up the pieces, whereas De Vries is still chilling out in 1920. And we talk about Red Bull can dominate in the front and the back. They literally have the worst and the best team on the grid. Like they've got the best team and the worst team on the grid. Yeah, so it's quite crazy that they're in that position. But the point is that in the worst team, they've got a driver that is still picking up points from time to time. And even when he isn't picking up points, he's right there to pick up the pieces. One DNF or one issue that happens in front of him, and he's there. And
Mm-hmm.
I think that's what makes good drivers. Good drivers are the ones that will pick up those pieces. Now, that to me tells a much bigger story than the 2 points difference. The 2 points difference is simply because those mistakes aren't going to happen all the time. People aren't going to DNF all the time. But he's there ready. So if he's in the 11th spot for how many? I mean, there was a stat somewhere in the year where he almost held the record for the most 11th finishes in a row, 11th position finishes in a row. Which tells you that he's constantly there. And if one thing happens in front of him, he's got points. It's not a good car. We know this. You know, I'm not expecting Daniel Ricciardo even to just come in and start scoring points. It's not a good car. We know that it's not a good car. I'm not saying that I'm not saying that, you know, Nyck de Vries was in a car that should be scoring points. I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying is, if Yuki can put that car in a position to pick up the pieces when it can, he should be too. He was miles off of Yuki every week. So that's my take on it. My honest opinion. As I said in the beginning of this episode, it's a business, and if you're not performing in your business, do you get rid of your employees or do you keep them and fail? Because your business fails if your employees aren't working. Whether that's your fault as a bad manager or whether they're just not performing, that's on you at the end of the day. And if you decide to keep them, your business fails if they're not performing. It's that simple. And at this point, look, I obviously have other reasons as to why I believe the switch from Nyck to Daniel is probably better for the team, even without the driving. Like even if Nyck de Vries wasn't doing too bad of a job, there are reasons why I believe this is still a good move, based on the future and based on where Alpha Tauri are looking to go. But we'll get into that. So yeah, just to close off that conversation, I personally believe that it was the right move from Red Bull. Nyck de Vries was not performing in many different categories of the sport, and quite frankly, the way he's taken this, to me, tells me that he shouldn't have been in the. I got to say one thing that I think was done incorrectly from Red Bull. Why did they pick Nyck de Vries in the first place? I mean, they had drivers in the Red Bull Academy, and they've never. I don't know when last. I don't know. Let me think. Nope. When last have you seen Red Bull go out of their academy for drivers in any situation? Sergio Perez was the last one. Sergio Perez was the last one.
Yeah,
and that you could understand.
Sergio Perez is like a signing, dude. It's like a transfer, basically.
But you
So
could
you
understand
really,
why.
Yeah,
you could understand why, because they only had rookies in their other car, and they needed a second driver for a top team. They can't just. They've already tried Albon. They already tried Gasly. It didn't work.
Yeah.
So their only option was to go out of the Red Bull family to find somebody that could fit the
get like
car.
a veteran or something like that. Yeah,
Exactly. Somebody that could. Exactly. So that kind of made sense. But generally, Red Bull never go outside of the Red Bull family to find a driver. So I'm very confused as to why they went with Nyck in the first place. In fact, Christian didn't want to, apparently. Helmut Marko admitted a few weeks ago that he should have listened to Christian, because Christian didn't want him in the first place. So fair enough. I think Christian probably is one of those suckers that do prefer to look at his own family. I mean, they have Lawson there. They've had Lawson for quite a while waiting. I mean, the man is doing Super Formula now, and he's in the lead of the title. He's literally winning Super Formula right now. You know, they've got Iwasa. Okay, I guess Iwasa wasn't ready then. He's ready now. I think he's got enough points now because he's got enough Formula 2 wins on his name. He's currently third, I think, in the Formula 2 title, and the points difference very small. So he's challenging for a title, basically. He's a title contender in Formula 2. So Red Bull have got the drivers, really. So why they went with Nyck in the first place, not too sure. So I think, to me, it was their bad from the get-go, because, again, if they had Ricciardo, if they knew Ricciardo, but then again, did they have Ricciardo before Nyck was announced? I'm not sure. I think they might have announced Nyck first before Ricciardo came along. But had they had Ricciardo, they could have made that decision last year already. But I don't see why they brought Nyck in the first place. So that to me was the only mistake that Red Bull really made. But as for getting rid of Nyck now, I think it was the right decision. And as harsh as it sounds, I personally believe they've done the right thing here. So so well done to them. And to any of you guys that disagree, that's your full right to disagree, and it's your full right to be upset at what has happened. But at the end of the day, I think what we all just need to remember and understand is, again, it's a business, and if people aren't performing in the business, you can't just sit and watch them. You've got to do something about it. And it seems like they did try and do something with Nyck, from what I'm hearing and from what I've seen. And I guess that's just how the cookie crumbles. Now, the next topic is Daniel Ricciardo, who is no stranger to being sacked so badly that he was paid 20 million to leave. That's how, I mean, he didn't get sacked like he was actually, it was actually worse. He didn't get sacked. He was asked, he was like, listen, we will pay you to just leave. Like
Yeah, that situation. Yeah.
Okay. Anyways, we're gonna take a short break, and we will get back to you guys in a minute. So stay tuned, and we'll be here soon. Cheers. Right, guys, we're back, and we are going to get into the next topic, which we were going to go on to Daniel Ricciardo. Now, this topic is very dear to my heart because I miss Daniel Ricciardo being in the driver's seat. I'm a very big fan of Daniel Ricciardo, as some of you might know, and to see him back in the sport is really great. But let's get into the fact that he is coming back into the sport, and let's discuss what that means. PT, I'm going to kick it off with this one because obviously being a big fan and being a Red Bull fan and more specifically a Daniel Ricciardo fan, I think this is one of those situations where I need to just humble myself, be a little bit more honest with myself and the situation, and be realistic about this. And quite frankly, I think this is a PR move. Now, I've discussed this, or I've made a video regarding this on TikTok. So if you hear from TikTok and you've heard this, I do apologize, but I'm going to reiterate this. Quite frankly, I think this is a PR move. So the reason why I say that is Red Bull were extremely clever to snatch Daniel Ricciardo up as a PR man, because he is a very marketable character, and he is good to have if you need him as a driver. Do you know what I mean? In the background. But you're not paying him driver rates, you're paying him PR rates. Do you know what I mean? You're paying him to be a reserve driver, you're not paying him to be a driver. Whereas now he's in a car driving, being paid as a reserve driver and a PR guy. Not only that, you have a marketable guy that Alpha Tauri can now use. Alpha Tauri is looking to get a new title sponsor. They're looking to get more sponsors in general because they want to rebuild this team. And who better to have in the car than Daniel Ricciardo if you're looking for more sponsors? Let's be honest. I mean, people love him. Sponsors love him. You know, we talk about Formula One being the sport for like a marketing sport. It's all about the marketing in Formula One. That's how the sport works. That's how it runs. And with a team like Daniel Ricciardo, with a team like Alpha Tauri, you need drivers that are going to bring those sponsors. I mean, if you think about it, Yuki Tsunoda and Nyck de Vries wasn't bringing big sponsors to that team. Let's be real. You're not gonna go to Apple and say, I've got Yuki Tsunoda and Nyck de Vries in my car, give me a sponsorship. Apple's gonna turn around and say, look, mate, I don't want to be funny, but like, this isn't a banana, this is an apple. We hold high standards here. Like, okay, sorry for that. I do apologize for that flow joke. But the point is Are you? I can't hear you. Are you there?
Yeah, I am. I'm
Ah,
listening.
okay. I can see you laughing, but I
I'm
can't hear
listening.
you. Sorry for the
No,
flow
I'm
joke, but
listening.
the sorry for the flow joke, but the point is just um, you know, companies and businesses hold themselves to high regard as well. If they're going to slap a sticker on your car, you best be getting screen time. You best be, and let's be honest, Daniel Ricciardo is getting screen time. People are going to focus on his car a lot this year. Whether Yuki is beating him, whether he's beating Yuki, do you know what I mean? Because if he's beating Yuki, it means that he's consistently in the points, which means Daniel Ricciardo is back, and the world's going to love that. The flip side of the coin is Daniel Ricciardo is definitely washed, and Yuki is beating him. They're still going to focus on that. So you tell me, is this a Red Bull mastermind? Or is this just a coincidence? But I personally feel like this is looking very much like a Red Bull mastermind situation to me that they've orchestrated quite perfectly. Because this is sink or swim for Daniel. But either way, sink or swim, either way, the cameras are on that car. So when you're going to sponsors and you're saying, listen, we've got Daniel Ricciardo in this car, we need sponsors. People are going to snatch that up quick. So personally, the biggest reason why Daniel Ricciardo is in that Alpha Tauri is simply because of marketing. Now, does he deserve to be in the car? Well, yes and no. Because yes, he did his test runs for Red Bull and apparently put in times that were good enough for a P2 on the grid, on the Silverstone starting grid for the weekend. So that means he put in a time better than Sergio Perez. He put in a time better than Lando Norris. Obviously, he's in the best car, but Sergio Perez couldn't do it. So what does that tell you? He's still not on Max's level, but he's still good enough to be there, given that he's got the car. You know, so yes, he does deserve it in that sense. He's also been around. He also understands the team. He knows the team. He can also help them build the car because they obviously need to rebuild the car because their car is. I mean, let's be realistic here. They're basically driving a Hyundai Atos on the track. It's literally, it's just a terrible piece of junk. It's just a piece of metal, basically, or carbon, however you want to call it. The point is, it's really terrible car. So they can use him so much here to rebuild the car, to rebuild the branding, to rebuild everything of that team. They can use him for that. And there's not many people that are better to have than Daniel Ricciardo. Do I think he's the future of AlphaTauri? Of course not. Because if he is going to be an F1, in my opinion, I would like to see him in a car that can win races. But more importantly, AlphaTauri seats are meant to be seats for the younger drivers. For the drivers coming through the academy of Red Bull, to give them exposure to F1 and to teach them. Whether, with Tost leaving, whether that carries on, we don't know, because Tost was an absolute mastermind at bringing up champion drivers. Whether the next guy is going to be or not, I don't know. But that seat should be reserved for the younger drivers. So my opinion, I think great for Daniel Ricciardo to be in that seat now until the end of the year. Come next year, I really think that they should reconsider having Ricciardo there, and getting someone like Lawson or Iwasa in as a permanent solution for the AlphaTauri seat. So that means, again, for me, unfortunately, leaving Daniel Ricciardo out again. But if the gap closes by the end of the year, maybe they can consider putting Daniel into Sergio's seat if Daniel goes well this year. We have to see how he does now for the rest of the year. Those are the options that you can look at the moment. So for me, it's sink or swim for Daniel. He either has to smash Yuki and put that car in places it shouldn't be, or he just doesn't do anything and doesn't show much for anything. It's a very difficult situation because he's in a car that is just really terrible. So what can he do is the question. So I don't know if you've got anything specific you would like to ask me in terms of my opinions on Daniel Ricciardo, but my opinion is simple. He's there for marketing reasons. He's great to be there right now. I think he's the perfect person to be there. Do I think he should be there next year? No, I don't think he should be there next year because that seat should be reserved for the guys like Liam Lawson and Iwasa winning their respective championships to get into Formula One. That's my take on the Daniel Ricciardo situation. So you're more than welcome to ask me questions if you want, but if you want, you can also give your take and we can take it from there.
Look, your take is quite interesting and it's on point, to be honest with you. I also thought it was like a marketing move. If they told Daniel that before he signed for Red Bull that he will be part of marketing and PR and all that stuff, that's quite cool of them. But it is that. And it was also for Red Bull to have a plan B, and this is the plan B.
Yeah.
This is the plan B, because as you said, Warner wanted Lawson, Marco wanted De Vries.
De Vries, yeah.
So the first year, so their middle ground of getting together and deciding on one person was Daniel Ricciardo, just in case a situation like this happens. So yeah, I agree with everything you said. The only thing that I'm not quite sure about is the Daniel Ricciardo going back to Red Bull situation. I don't think that's gonna happen, to be honest with you. They have tried that, they've done that, they've had success with that. Personally, on my side or whatever, I don't think Red Bull would want to take that route. And this is just purely from me saying that I think they'll rather go for Lawson than go for Ricciardo. To be honest with you, I mean, they know who Ricciardo is. They know if they have another dominant car next year, what Ricciardo is going to bring to the team. And you don't want that situation where Max and Ricciardo now are butting heads. I don't think Red Bull would like to actually experience that. And at that point, Max will be a 3-time world champion. And Ricciardo will be an 8-time winner. And it's gonna be a decision one time where there is a race. And Ricciardo's behind Max Verstappen, and Ricciardo's gonna ask to come past. And that's where the mess is gonna start. As Lawson, if you have a driver like Lawson, you can still manage that because he's still a rookie or he's still young in the sport. So you can still control him. But I think a driver like Ricciardo, who's an 8-time winner, I don't think he's gonna like hearing please do not overtake Max. Stay in position. So in terms of that situation where he goes back to Red Bull, I don't think that's gonna happen, to be honest with you, Brian.
Fair point. My honest opinion on that situation is I think it just depends on the pool. For example, are they going to take Lawson straight out of Super Formula and put him into a Red Bull seat, or are they going to want to feed him through the channels first, get him into that Alpha Tauri seat first? It all depends on what happens at the end of this year. If McLaren or Mercedes or Aston Martin close that gap by the end of this year, Red Bull are going to start panicking, because then what happens next year? Can we put Lawson straight into a Red Bull seat? We don't know. Daniel.
But now we forget. But we're forgetting there's Perez as well. What if they say, okay, cool, you're gonna keep Perez for another year?
Yeah, but if that gap closes and Perez isn't back up to standard where he was, what if Perez still struggles for the rest of the season and that gap closes? Do you think they're going to want to keep him? They're not going to want to keep him, surely, because they're going to need to fight for a championship. They're going to need that second driver that will pick up those points. Of course, there's Yuki. I mean, Yuki's been doing quite well. Maybe he deserves the seat. Who knows? He's had a pretty good season. Whether he can handle the Red Bull or not, we don't know, because let's be honest, we've had so many drivers in that second seat that couldn't. And this is the point I wanted to get to when I spoke to you, when you said earlier about drivers' driving styles. This is the exact point I wanted to get to, where Daniel and Max have a very similar style of driving. They're both extremely aggressive. They're both very good with the brakes. And that car was originally always set up for that type of style. Now, don't get me wrong, the car's probably changed over the years, and Max is one of those generational talents that can just adapt to anything. And I get that. Completely 100% get it. And we obviously know Daniel isn't somebody that adapts quickly to anything. We know that because he hasn't done that. Okay. My personal opinion, that Red Bull still has, it's still set up in the style that would favor Daniel Ricciardo's driving style. So to be honest, I think he would do well in that car. Again, don't put words in my mouth. He's not touching Max. It's just not going to happen. Even as a Ricciardo fan, I can tell you he's not touching Max. I don't think anybody right now in that car is coming close to Max. So personally, I think the only reason why they would want to take Daniel is because if Sergio doesn't get back onto the form that he was at the start of the year, for example, and that gap closes, what do? Do they put Lawson, a rookie, directly into a title fighting team? Do they put Yuki in there? Do they put Daniel, who's a proven winner, knowing that he's back on form and, back to being his old self? Personally, I think the most attractive out of all of those is Daniel Ricciardo, considering I also don't think it's a good idea to have Daniel Ricciardo as the driver for next year. This is just my opinion. I don't think Daniel should be in the Alpha Tauri next year. I personally don't think that seat should be for old men, which sounds bad, but it shouldn't be. It should be for the youngsters. If they want Lawson to be the next Red Bull guy, they should put Lawson into that Alpha Tauri seat now. At the end of this year, once he's finished his Super Formula Championship and he's good to go, he must get into that Alpha Tauri seat now, so that in a year or two from now, he can be in that Red Bull and be ready for that Red Bull seat. So even if it is just for a year or two, I would say Daniel is the best option if Perez is not up to scratch. If Perez comes back on form, leave Daniel out, keep Perez where he is, keep the consistency within the team, and let them build. Behind the scenes, the three of them seem to work quite well together. They seem to have a lot of fun together. I've watched all of their videos, and they seem to be quite naughty, the three of them, Max, Sergio, and Daniel. They're like three lighties just causing havoc everywhere, which is quite nice and fun to see. But in any case, to get back to the real situation, look, you could be right. I'm not disputing what you're saying. I'm not saying. What I'm saying is, I think Daniel is the best option for Red Bull if Perez doesn't get back on form. At least if that gap closes and they need a second driver that will be able to keep that fight. He's not going to take it to Max. I don't think he's going to take it to Max in the sense where he'll win the title. Yes, there'll probably be a couple races where he might say, listen, I'm faster than Max, let me go through. Because we've seen Sergio do that a couple times this year. But I don't think in the long run, I don't see Daniel really taking the fight to Max. So I don't see it being that big of an issue. But you could be right. And as we said at the beginning of this chat when we spoke about Sergio Perez, you kind of don't want to risk putting someone like Ricciardo in there, knowing what he can produce, because if he is back to his old self and he can match Max, then you do have problems, and that's where I kind of understand your point, is that, why risk a happy team when, you put two drivers in there and they end up fighting, and then you've got issues again on your hands, worse problems to manage. So I get it.
And the thing is that I read a couple of articles about Max, and Max has been talking about Ferrari. So that's another thing we don't know about. We don't know if Max wants to finish his career with Red Bull. And maybe a move like that could actually enhance him to start thinking about that as well.
Personally, I don't see Max going anywhere. That guy's.
No, I'm just saying.
What I do see
about Formula 1. Yeah.
What I do see though is someone like Leclerc or Norris coming to Red Bull, because it's Helmut Marko has been saying this now for a couple of weeks. I think he said it 2 or 3 times already, that he's got his eye on Leclerc and Norris, and he literally said in these words, he doesn't care if they've got contracts, he'll pay them out. So they are looking. Yeah.
But to be honest with you,
We'll block some.
I
Sorry.
won't be
Oh,
shocked. I won't be shocked. I won't be shocked. I won't be shocked if Verstappen does go to Ferrari, bro. It won't shock me at all. To be honest with you.
yeah.
His father was Michael Schumacher's friend. He grew up around Michael Schumacher. Michael Schumacher's family is still in contact with the family from Ferrari. So, I don't really, I'm not saying it's gonna happen now in the next 3 to 2 years, but I'm not gonna say it won't ever happen. I'm saying there's a chance.
Yeah.
If you're gonna speak about a certain thing, that means you've been thinking about that thing. You've been thinking
Yeah.
about it. You don't just say
Yeah.
anything, like especially in the interview, just say something like that. That means it is in the back of your mind. But any
Yeah.
case,
But
back to Ricardo.
I
Uh,
don't think
back
it
to
will.
Ricardo.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I'm saying back to Ricardo. Another thing that Ricardo should do is that, yes, we know Red Bull is maybe the team that he would like to go back to or whatever. I'm not saying that is the case, but he should also use this opportunity to also attract other teams as well. The Williams seat is
100%.
open.
100%.
Sargent, I think he's gonna go.
Yeah.
I think, me personally, the Williams T seat is open. Williams is doing very well this year. They're looking
Mm.
quite quickly, looking fast. The whole team dynamic has changed.
Yeah.
It looks like
100%.
they're in the right track at the moment. So if I was him, I would actually keep an eye on that team. I
Yeah.
mean, another team you could actually keep an eye on is probably, I would say Haas, because I heard today that
The
they're
yeah.
they're gonna stop working with Ferrari, or they're gonna stop having the same livery as Ferrari. They're
Yeah.
going towards that. So maybe next year when they maybe do those changes, maybe that team will be quite different next year. So
So
those are two teams. Yeah.
apparently, well, before I gotta go, before I'm gonna say something, uh, my I've just my leg is just cramped up a lot. So when you saw me standing up, I really apologize if you saw anything on the screen that was a little inappropriate. But I really had to get up quickly because I had to just put my legs straight. Anyways,
Aging, bro.
I don't straight facts. He's not going to Haas. He's not going to Williams. He's not going to go to the. He's been offered seats there. He didn't take them. Okay, his situation, and I get it. You know, he's getting old now. He wants a shot at the title. If he doesn't get it, he doesn't get it, and if he gets it, he gets it. There's no ways he's playing games here. He wants a shot at the title, and it's that simple. My honest opinion, the teams he should look for are Ferrari and Audi, and Aston Martin. And the reason why I say this is because one, Aston Martin, you're looking at a seat opening when Alonso leaves, which will be probably 2026. Audi is coming in 2020. Yeah, Audi is coming in 2026.
Yeah.
Leclerc, if Leclerc gets snatched up by Aston Martin or by Red Bull or whatever, then there's a seat open in Ferrari in 2026. And then Lewis Hamilton is going to probably retire sometime soon as well. But I feel like he'll be around still for a little bit longer, which would make it too late for Daniel. But the point is, there are top teams that will open up for him eventually. And I think he should be looking long-term now. If things go well at Alpha Tauri and he can show the world that he is still Daniel Ricciardo, he doesn't need Red Bull then. You're 100% correct in that. He doesn't need Red Bull. But it all depends on what he wants to achieve and so on. But I would say he shouldn't be too greedy. He should just enjoy his time in F1, pick up those paychecks. And I mean, he's got so many businesses and much money and all of that already, so probably doesn't need much more. But anyways, yeah, look, I think that's it on Daniel Ricciardo. I don't think there's much more we can say. Basically, in a nutshell, he's in the right place at this point in time. I think he deserves to be there. I think it's great that he's back in Formula One. I'm extremely excited to have him back. Do I think he should stay in Alpha Tauri for next year? No, I don't think he should. Do I think he should replace Perez? Not really. But if there is a need for it, in the sense where the gap closes and Perez hasn't picked up form, then possibly yes. Red Bull have mentioned that they are looking at guys like Norris as well, and Leclerc and so on. So who knows where Red Bull want to go in the future. I think the next half of the season with Daniel at AlphaTauri is going to tell a big story. I feel like he either does extremely well and Christian Horner says, all right, then let's take you on, or he doesn't do that well at all, or he just does a very normal, mediocre job, and they just like, well, we'll just keep him as a reserve driver. That's pretty much his options right now. And if he can start snatching up other teams, maybe that's also a good option. So happy to have him back, but what does that mean for him? Well, we don't know. I guess we're gonna have to wait and see if he can put a Hyundai Autos in the points. That's simple, I guess. Cool. So let's do a quick recap on McLaren and who is actually the second best team in Formula One. Okay, so what's your current thoughts on McLaren and the drivers right now, BT? Based on the last race and based on what we saw with their upgrades, what do you think of them? Where do you see them going? Do you think they're now the second best team? What is your take on McLaren?
No, I don't think they're the second best team at the moment. But everything is working quite fine. I mean, they own the British Grand Prix. They didn't win, but they owned it, and they owned the whole weekend. So they're doing quite well at the moment. Norris has been on a brilliant form of races. He's been very good. I think early in the season we were talking about him being demotivated, being unhappy with the performance of the car. But all of a sudden that has changed. He's looking good in the car now. He's having some fun. His teammate is also there and just playing the support role, and also learning as well. So that team dynamic is quite good. Everything is going well for them.
100%.
And I think every weekend or every race weekend they're progressing, that's a good result. And Zach Brown should stay away for more races. But yeah,
well, he was at Silverstone,
so but no, McLaren's going right direction at the moment, and it's quite cool to see. So, that's all I have to say.
All right, cool. Well, look, my opinion is pretty simple. In terms of the drivers, I just want to say that I haven't had the opportunity to even put this on TikTok, but I just want to say in terms of the drivers, their gamble on Piastri, I know it's only been one race, but their gamble on Piastri, I think it's worked.
Yeah.
We saw a rookie finally get a car that was able to be on the podium. He put it on the podium. He kept it on the podium. And if it weren't for the safety car, he would have had that podium. And then you have Norris, who was just naturally, he was there regardless. So I think their gamble on their drivers has been great. And I think that they saw something special in Piastri, and I think it paid off. So well done to McLaren for that. I think the progression on the car I've never seen in my life, ever in the history of F1. I've never seen a car in the space of one upgrade go from being one of the worst to one of the best cars in Formula One. It just doesn't make any sense to me how they did that. Whether they've cracked the cost cap or not, I have no idea. Something seems too good to be true here. But nonetheless, they've done a great job, and it's great to see. I will say that I've got a feeling it's track specific. It worked in Austria when Norris had the upgrades. It then worked in Silverstone, both very fast, flowy tracks. They're now coming up to Hungary, which is a bit more of a high downforce track, lots of slower turns. I don't see them doing too well or as well there. If they do well in Hungary, you can say they are the second best team currently. Maybe not on the standings, but just currently as a car. Look, we got to remember, Max is
I
currently
disagree with that. I disagree with that. I think Aston Martin has been consistent on each circuit. I know they're not finishing on the podiums recently, but if you actually look at the car, and I'm not talking about Stroll now, I'm talking about
yeah,
Alonso, the person who's always in the points. We haven't spoken about Aston Martin
yeah,
having problems or having a down weekend. They've always been there.
yeah,
So my answer, the car that's second, and maybe this is because of result based, result based, where a car that's
yeah,
quite consistent in every circuit. I thought it was Ferrari at some point. Clearly, it's not.
yeah. I
Clearly,
think
it's
it
not.
changes, to
So
be
I think
honest.
it's Aston Martin, but I
Yeah,
think it's Aston Martin. Aston Martin has
yeah.
been there ever since the season started.
That's
To be
fair. That's
honest.
fair. That's fair. But I'm talking about currently, like right now, because
Okay.
let's put it like this, right? Um, Red Bull are just miles ahead, right? And we talk about how
Yeah.
boring the dominance is. But think about this: from the second to the 10th car, there's about 3 to 5 tenths in a race. It's so close that one small upgrade changes the entire grid.
Okay.
And
Okay.
I think that if you take McLaren in the last upgrade that they've brought in Austria, they went from finishing 15th, 16th, all of a sudden the guys on the podium.
Okay.
How? So I just think in terms of currently, the best car currently is McLaren, just because of what's happened in the last two races based on that upgrade, on their last upgrade. But next week, Aston Martin could bring an upgrade, and then they're the second best again, or Mercedes, or I just think that it's so tight in that midfield pack that it's just going to chop and change the whole year around. And until one of the teams get it right to not be track specific, I think the team that gets it right to not be track specific is the team that will be the clear number two at the end. And I feel like you are correct in saying that that's probably going to be Aston Martin, because I feel like they will be the team that they have been the team that has shown that they can be good on different types of tracks. So we'll have to see closer towards the end of the year how things go. But right now, I think McLaren have the second best car, but it's only a matter of time until the next team has the second best car that brings an upgrade. Ferrari are going to bring upgrades, and Mercedes are going to bring more upgrades. So it's just a matter of time until that changes again. Personally, I love having McLaren back up there. I just hope they can stay up there. I hope this is not just a 2-3 race thing. I hope it's not fully track specific, in the sense where I hope come Hungary they haven't dropped down back to 12th or something, that at least they can stay in the, maybe they don't need to be on the podium, but at least maybe 6, 7, 8, you know what I mean? So that's just my take on McLaren and where they are. Moving forward, I don't particularly think they're going to do too well in Hungary, if I'm really honest, just purely because of the high downforce and the way that their car is set up. But I'm hoping, and we'll see how it goes. Anyways, we're going to take another break. And then we're going to get back to you guys with the last little bit of discussion regarding the Hungary Grand Prix and the qualifying format changes. And then we're going to finish off with our predictions, and then we're going to call it a night. So we'll be back with you guys in a few seconds. Cheers. Right, okay, we are back, and back again. We are back again. Guess who's back? Back again. Daniel's back. Okay, listen. Sorry, let's just move on. Okay, sorry. I apologize. For those of you who were listening to this on audio and thought Eminem was in the building, it's just another random white guy, so don't worry. Anyways, cool. Hungry is up next. No, I'm not hungry. That doesn't mean I want food. I'm talking about the track. The country, actually. But the track is in Hungary, Budapest.
Oh.
Sorry, have I caught you off guard or what? It's that time of the night, guys. I'm very tired, and let's just say it's the time of the night where the flow jokes just start coming out, and really apologize. But I do hear that there's a lot of hungry people in Hungary. Probably why they named the country that. I don't know. I don't know. Anyways, cool. BT, Hungary is coming up next weekend. What are we expecting, sir? Give me your thoughts on what do we expect. What cars are you expecting to do well? All I know is it is a high downforce. It's not all I know, guys. I'm just going to be real. I'm a little bit more knowledgeable than this, but what I'm going to say is just a few things that I do know. It's a high downforce track. Has
Yeah.
a lot of turns. And if I'm not mistaken, Lewis Hamilton holds the lap record around Hungary. It's about a 4 point something kilometer trek. And it generally gives us good racing. It's one of those weird tracks where it's like a boring track, or it's supposed to be a boring track, but we always tend to get some good racing out of it. Like, I don't know how to explain it, but like overtakes are generally only done in one place, and that's on the front straight right at the end.
Yeah.
But it always seems to just be a great spectacle to watch, which is just a funny thing. Anyways, BT, what are we expecting? Are you expecting anything special?
Besides, I mean, besides who's going to win the race,
I mean,
I'm expecting Aston Martin. Yeah, I'm expecting Aston Martin to do well there, though. I'm expecting Alonso to do well there.
cool.
Alonso has done very well on that track. I remember a couple of years ago, he actually almost won the race with the horrible Ferrari was driving. Then
Yeah.
Daniel got to end up winning that race. So
Did he?
overtook Alonso. Yeah, he overtook Alonso
Oh,
in the last lap, I think.
cool.
Um, then he won the race. But yeah, Aston Martin.
Cool.
I'm quite excited to see how they're gonna do there. Obviously
Cool.
my horrible team, Ferrari. Not a lot of expectations for you in that track. But we have to see what's gonna happen.
Right.
Lewis Hamilton, seeing that he holds records there. I want to see how he's going to do there. I want to see how that Mercedes is going to be in that particular
Yeah.
track. I mean, if I can compare that track to Monaco, I'm not saying they are the same, but they are quite similar. Um, Ferrari did do well in Monaco, not too bad, but Aston Martin did really well in
Yeah.
Monaco,
100%.
and they were supposed to win that race, but they didn't. So my biggest take for that particular track has to be Aston Martin, for
Cool.
Stroll and Alonso to do there, and the changing weather conditions as well, because usually
Yeah.
it's
And
another track that
there has been a
has
weather report.
rain.
There has been a weather
Oh,
report that dropped this. I think it was today I saw it came out. It looks interesting.
okay, okay, cool.
I didn't have a long look at it. I just saw the headline come up and it looked pretty interesting. But I haven't had a chance to have a look. So my expectations, shock surprise. Max is probably gonna win. Um, Look, man, every time I predict that he's gonna DNF, then it doesn't happen. So I'm just gonna predict that he wins, and maybe something else will happen. Let's just see
Mm,
how it goes. There's only one topic I'd like to bring up. And I'm not sure if you knew about this, BT. Apparently, they are testing out a new qualifying format at Hungary. So there's 11 tire compound. No, sorry, there's 3 compounds, but there's 11. So every team, obviously, every weekend, every team gets assigned a certain amount of tires, and this weekend it's 11 tires. What they're trying to do is they're trying to force a situation where Q1 will only be on. Now, please, guys, don't quote me. Go read it up. I'm just trying to piece this together myself, but I read about this a little bit earlier today, and this is what I've understood about it. In Q1, all tires or all cars have to be on the hard tires. In Q2, all cars have to be on the medium tires. And in Q3, if it's still dry and not raining, all cars have to be on the soft tires. So I personally have no opinion on this. I have no idea why or for what reason, and I'm not entirely sure how it's going to work. What I understand is that some cars are better on certain compounds than others. Maybe a team on a hard tire is maybe just a bit better on the hard tire than others, and that might just bring them up. I don't know. I don't really know why they're doing this. But hey, willing to give it a try. I think, we in F1, we complain a lot as fans and as teams and drivers and stuff. We all complain so much in the sport, and we got rid of the whole thing where, you remember last year or in the previous years, when you finished whatever tire you finished on in Q2, that was the tire you started with in the race.
Yeah.
And then we complained, and then they got rid of it. And now I'm thinking they should bring that back. And I saw somebody else talk about this the other day. And it's like now a lot of people are actually thinking like they should just bring that back, because that actually made sense. That actually worked quite well, because it made it interesting in the race, because you knew you were stuck in a certain strategy. There was nothing you could do. If you were starting on the softs, you had to start on the softs. There was nothing you could do about that. It also meant that in Q2 you would have to put your banker lap in pretty early, because you didn't want to do too many laps on that one tire, which obviously Perez would probably suffer with that situation. But anyways, that's fun. The point is,
wow.
The point is that they've got this new format now. Hards in Q3, Q1, Q2 is mediums, and Q3 softs. Don't have an opinion. Have no idea why they're doing it. Have no idea what effect it's going to have. Hey, let's see how it goes.
Let's see how that goes. How that goes.
Cool. So look, guys. Yep.
I'm thinking now. Well, that's still change.
I can smell something burning from your thinking.
That's still change Verstappen being on pole. I don't think so.
Mate, that guy will put it on pole on hards while everyone's on softs. I don't think it's going to make a difference. Not for Red Bull anyways. Maybe the other teams, it will change things around. I don't know.
Yeah, of course.
Maybe Alpine will come last, which is no different to last week, so it's fine. Anyways, let's move on.
They're having a horrible season. Anyway.
They are just all over the place, man. It's actually, they remind me of Haas from a couple of years ago, where they just could not understand how 1 week the car could work and the next week it just does nothing. They just couldn't understand it. That's where Alpine are now. Anyways, guys, there's really not much else to cover. I feel like we've gone on long enough, longer than probably we needed to. So apologize for that. But hey, at least you got a bit of entertainment for a little while. We're going to get into quickly, just to close off, our predictions from the last race, which was Silverstone. And we'll go through this pretty quickly. We both way off. We both got the max win, so cool. We get 2 points each, but none of us got any of the other drivers at all whatsoever.
Hey.
We both went Perez, Leclerc, and you went Leclerc, Sainz. And well, Leclerc and Sainz had probably the worst finish of the year in 9th and 10th. And Perez, I think, came 6th or something. So cool. We get 2 points each. Nothing special. That still leaves a pretty decent points gap for us right now. But we'll get into that at a later stage. So predictions for Hungary. Again, I'm not asking for food. I'm just asking for your predictions for the race. So please let me know what your predictions for Budapest in Hungary is, BT.
Alonso for the win.
Hey, okay. Hey, that's 2 points, hey, if you get that. I'm just saying.
Yeah, Alonso for the win.
No, I'm sorry. That's 4. Sorry, that's 4 points if you get it. That's doubleness. It's 4 points if you get it. Okay, cool. Got you.
So Aston Martin for the win. Alonso, 2nd place. Max, 3rd place.
Sorry, you're going Alonso, Max? Alonso, Max,
I'm
and
gonna
then
give it, yeah. Third is I'm gonna give it to Leclerc.
Leclerc. Okay, cool
Yeah,
stuff.
gonna bounce back.
Okay, so you do know they
Weekend.
finished 9th and 10th last week, right?
I
Okay,
know.
anyways, let's
That's
just
I know.
okay,
I
cool.
know.
Okay, so I'm gonna go with the safe option. Max is gonna win. Shock. Anyways, I'm starting to think that this is quite a shock surprise, but I feel like I'm gonna go with it anyways. What? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. My goodness. In the last 6 races, I've predicted Perez to come second. 6. Jeez. Okay.
You have faith in him, man. You have faith in him.
Yeah. Okay. So, but the thing is, he's got to come back at some point, right? He's got the best car. Surely at some point, he's got to get it right. It's going to be this weekend, man. I've got to back it. I've got to back it. Max, Perez, Alonso. I'm going to go with the good old 1, 2, 3 from the start of the year, which we thought was pretty much going to be the whole year's thing. Max, Perez, Alonso. I'm going to stick with it, and I've got a feeling Hamilton's going to stick it in there somewhere. But you know what? I'm gonna keep it at that. Max Perez, Alonso. Cool. That's me. That is you. Don't think there's much to add. I don't know if you have anything else to add. By the way, Silverstone to me was a good 7 out of 10. Just if anybody cares. 7 out of 10 is my rating for Silverstone. It wasn't the good old Silverstone race that we used to know, but it was still a decent race. It wasn't boring at all, but it wasn't as exciting as Silverstone races usually are. So solid 7 out of 10 if anybody cares. But this isn't really a Silverstone episode. I just thought I'd put it out there for no reason at all. Anyways, BT, let me know what you're thinking. I'm ready to sign off.
Yeah, my ballsy prediction. I'm proud of that one. Let's see what happens.
Right. Yeah, I'm also proud of it. It's the first time you've ever made one.
Oh wow.
Mate, if you win this prediction this weekend, I quit the game, like, completely. Because, geez, I've been trying these ballsy moves the whole year. That's why I'm points. That's why I'm so far behind, because I've been trying these ballsy moves the entire time. Anyways,
Look at the
guys,
track, dude.
no, listen, it's just
and you'll be like, okay, let's go for it.
It's not about the track, bro. It's about the gut feeling. But like, obviously my gut uses the toilet a bit too often, so I get it wrong. You know, I flush it. Anyways, I don't know what I'm saying, really. It's that time of the year. I'm just talking out of my. Anyways, guys, that's been us at Break at the Apex, and we will go. Hello, we will, guys. Nope, we will see you guys soon. After the Budapest Hungary race. Is that it? It's called a race. Okay. Cheers, guys. Have a good day. Cheers. Bye. That was, jeez, guys. That was an absolute shambles, that ending. But we love you anyways. Cheers. Bye.